How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today I've got 10 reasons for you to move to Fort Collins, Colorado, and we're covering them starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then this is the channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon you see on your screen, make sure you click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I try to be a little creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we are helping people move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person answering your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there when and if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is 10 reasons to move to Fort Collins, Colorado. So since I started making these videos, I've gotten a ton of feedback from people asking about Fort Collins, and it is a city that is growing in popularity day by day, and it's seen a population boost certainly over the last 10 years or so. So was pretty excited to get up there, explore the town more, to be around it more. Sometimes on these videos I get feedback of, do you call them cities, do you call them towns? At the end of the day, I think the words are interchangeable, but there's a lot to like about Fort Collins. The number one reason I'm going to give you to move to Fort Collins is that beauty. It is a town nestled up against the mountains, so you have these breathtaking views of nature all around you. And overall, it is a very pretty city. One of the things I noticed, and we've had a lot of rainfall here in Colorado, specifically this year. And so the state and Denver and going up to Fort Collins is just a lot greener than we're used to seeing. And Fort Collins has a ton of green. When I would fly my drone around, literally I had a tough time distinguishing areas that I was flying over because it is just covered in trees and green, and that's not something that you normally see, at least not in Denver or Colorado for that matter. Second reason you want to consider moving to Fort Collins, Colorado is Old Town. Their historic downtown, just a very cool area, multiple blocks, very walkable, a ton of mom and pop shop businesses. You have your restaurants, bars, cafes. When I talk about it being walkable, it's also very accessible from bicycles. I like to accidentally pull my car too far forward in the intersection and block where people are allowed to walk. I only did it 3 times during my last visit there. So you'll see a ton of walking traffic. And it's just a very cool, I use the term vibe, and I get hit on that sometimes, but it's got a great vibe. A lot of energy, day and night, a lot of things to do, and for a town of its size, it gives you a lot of access to enjoyable things. One of the things I really like about Fort Collins is the amount of live music you'll see. You'll see it at breweries, you'll even see it at cafes, a lot of the bars, restaurants. It seems like you turn the corner and there is somebody playing music. The other thing, and this is a really fun fact about Fort Collins, and a very interesting thing about Fort Collins is that if you ever go to Disneyland and you look at its main street, you might say that it looks a lot like Fort Collins. Well, it turns out that a gentleman named Harper Goff from Fort Collins actually designed Main Street in Disneyland, and he modeled it after Old Town Fort Collins. A pretty cool thing, something that as many times as I had been to Fort Collins, as many times I had been on that street, and I had been to Main Street at Disneyland as a 9-year-old, so forgive me there, but I had never put those two together. A very cool fun fact. The number 3 reason to move to Fort Collins, and breweries are a big thing across Colorado in general, but Fort Collins, I mean, it's like the mecca of breweries. You've got New Belgium, one of the biggest breweries, microbreweries in the country. You've got Odell's, you've got Busch, you've got Prost, several breweries. There's over 20 in that local area, and they're always doing something. So like New Belgium Brewery is famous for their Tour de Fat. Take it as like the Tour de France, only it's a bunch of idiots like myself dressing up in costumes. They're not all, I kid, I'm the idiot. But dressing up in costumes, getting on your bike and riding down into, again, Old Town. They close off the streets and it's just a ball. It's just a very fun event. And at all of these breweries, they're family friendly, they're dog friendly. That's important because Colorado, we are all about our dogs here. They have, as I mentioned earlier, live music. They're just a great hangout spot and you have a variety of places to choose from. If you're not a beer connoisseur, obviously there's bars, but I mean, come on, just have a few sips of beer. You'll start to like it, I promise. Number 4 is Colorado State University, founded in 1870. It was originally an agricultural school, but now obviously it has expanded to several different programs. Interestingly enough, one of the more accomplished veterinarian schools in the nation. Didn't know that until a few years back when a friend went up there. They also have a very big equestrian presence. Their horses, going up there and visiting, I got to parts of Fort Collins that I really hadn't visited a whole lot before. And I mean, they have stables and fields and just a ton of land for these horses to be on. So a big program there. Also at Colorado State University is Canvas Stadium. That was opened in 2017. It's a 41,000 person capacity stadium that the football team plays in, but they also have a lot of different events. So they'll have, live concerts, they'll have movie nights where people will come in, snack, watch a movie on the big screen. So that has been a big hub. And the Colorado State campus itself is a pretty cool campus to go explore. It's got a lot of history behind it. It's a beautiful campus. Obviously, it's been around for about 150 years at this point, and it's a huge part of the community. Obviously, you're going to have somewhat of a college town vibe. You don't have a university that large without it impacting the town. And so Colorado State is definitely a big component of Fort Collins. The 5th reason to move to Fort Collins is Horsetooth Reservoir. And I mean, honestly, I'd put that number 1. I think Horsetooth is a very, very cool spot. Colorado is not known, obviously, for its large bodies of water. But Horsetooth, it's not going to be massive for some of you folks coming from, areas where lakes are just basically the size of small oceans. But for Colorado, very sizable. It's great for swimming. It's great for paddleboarding. It's great for decent sized boats that can go out. They can bring their, water skiers. You can go out and fish if you want to. It's gorgeous. I like knowing boats by flying my drone apparently too close to them. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody really gave me any crap there. But it's got some docks. A lot of people will dock their boat along Horsetooth during the summer. And there's some really cool homes up along that back mountain. I'm sure you're seeing some video of some just really cool neighborhoods. It's a gorgeous area. And I absolutely love spending time there. I can't imagine going to Fort Collins and not spending time at Horsetooth Reservoir. It's also a great place to go hiking and camping. You'll see a lot of people doing that. There's just a variety of reasons you'd go to Horsetooth and spend some quality time there. And playing off that is reason number 6, and you're going to get this sense when you see Fort Collins, is that it is a very outdoorsy area. They have 285 miles, so they say, of biking, walking, hiking paths in general. They have 44 miles of paved paths just for people to stroll through their community. So when you see it, there's a lot built around the idea of getting outside. Whether you are hiking, biking, camping, swimming, all of these things, they want to get you out to enjoy the amenities of nature that are right there in Fort Collins and that you're not going very far to see. And you get that feel. I mentioned that Old Town is big on walking and bicycles. It is a very bicycle-friendly community. And so you see that whether you're in town or on the outskirts and getting up into the mountains, they make it accessible for people who are not in a car. Whether you are walking, running, biking, you're on a little scooter, whatever, they make it so it's easy to get around, easy access, and easy to enjoy. Number 7, and this one's going to be kind of specific to comparing Fort Collins to Denver, but number 7 is the affordability of Fort Collins in comparison to a lot of Denver's metro area. Now, the reason I say, that we need to preface this is that if you're comparing Denver to Fort Collins tends to give more affordability. However, if you talk to people in Fort Collins, and rightfully so, there is a concern that affordability in Fort Collins and up north is starting to shrink. There's a lot of population growth in that area. Nearby communities like Windsor and like Loveland are growing in popularity as well. So you may find some affordability as you're looking from, again, the metro area of Denver up north, but that's not to say that the people of Fort Collins would tell you that it is, you know, cheap by any means. For them, the affordability of Fort Collins continues to be stretched. Playing in their favor in that regard is reason number 8. I almost said reason number 7. Apparently my fingers weren't working. And that is that Fort Collins has a pretty strong economy. Now, you are close enough to get to a lot of different areas of Colorado if you're not working in Fort Collins, but Fort Collins also has a sustainable economy of its own based on healthcare, based on technology, education, finance. They've got some major corporations up there employing a lot of people. Obviously, Colorado State being one of their major employers as well. But the city, town, whichever you want to call it, the city itself has a strong economy where it can sustain itself to a large extent. The number 9 reason to move to Fort Collins is its top-rated schools. Now, the Poudre, or Poudre if you're French, there's all these arguments on how you pronounce it. The school district there, the Poudre School District, is one of the highest rated in the states. It consists of 31 elementary schools, 10 middle schools, 3 high schools, 4 charter schools, schools galore, but again, very highly rated schools. And then obviously you have Colorado State to boot. So as far as schools, it doesn't get much better than moving to Fort Collins. And now somebody's gonna watch this and they're gonna say it's not Poudre, it's Poudre, either way, you know, somebody is pronouncing it right. Maybe it's me, maybe it's not. The number 10 reason to move to Fort Collins, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, and that is dog friendly. Now, listen, I've made videos about Denver, and I claim that Denver is dog friendly, and it is. I consider a lot of communities around Denver to be dog friendly. I feel like Fort Collins just kind of takes it to another level. It kind of feels small town-ish, and Fort Collins does have some small town feel to it when you go and visit. But there's just dogs everywhere. There's dogs walking through stores, supermarkets, and obviously at the breweries, certain restaurants or, you know, certain bars will allow them more so. And yes, I'm sure there's non-dog loving folks that have an issue with it, but for the most part, you're going to see dogs everywhere. So if you love pooches, whether you have one or multiple, or you love being around them, Fort Collins will be a great place for you. And how can you not enjoy living somewhere with dogs? And I got a little bonus for you, and I think that this is just something that so many people brought up to me, and basically everywhere you search, it's just in your face about it. And that is, there's my little bonus 11th reason to move to Fort Collins, and that is the low crime rate. When I talk to friends, clients, colleagues, people who live in Fort Collins, that's one of the actual first things that they mention. I didn't want to put it, you know, too high on my list because I think that, you know, that, well, I don't know why I didn't put it very high on my list, but I wanted to make sure that it was mentioned. I wanted to make sure that we talked about the fact that the folks in Fort Collins claim that, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some neighborhoods that are a little less desirable than others, but for the most part, it is a community that feels close-knit, a community that feels extremely safe, extremely walkable. You can be out all hours of the day reasonably. Nothing good happens after midnight. Apparently, that's what my grandmother told me. But that you can be out and about. And then there's always that talk of like, you can leave your front door unlocked. Am I telling people they should leave their front door unlocked? No, because it only takes one person. But that is kind of the energy that the city gives off. All in all, there is a big reason that Fort Collins is growing in population, and that is because there is a ton to like about it. Whether it's the downtown area, whether it's to get into the mountains, whether it's Colorado State, and it's just a beautiful town with very good people, great energy, and a lot to explore. And if you have more questions about it, I'd love to answer those, and that's a perfect time to give me a call, shoot me an email with that number and email you see on the screen. I'm always the person answering those phone calls, answering those texts, answering those emails. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. That was 10 reasons to move to Fort Collins, Colorado. Until I see you next time, peace.